All right, today we're going to be doing intro to Git and GitHub, as you guys know. All right, nice. We're good, we're good. All right. So our speakers for today, since we're already behind schedule, we have our VP, Shawn Grant. He is a computer science student. He's second year. He's into mobile and web development, and he does a little bit of game development. At least he's interested in it. Our next speaker, we have Hakeem Watson. He's our project manager, and he also does ComSci. Yeah, and he wants to be a full stack developer, or well, he is. So, and we have Daryn Brown, also a ComSci student, and he's an artist, and he's into cross-platform development and machine learning. So these three will be our speakers for today. What we're gonna do, I think we're gonna have breakout rooms. Yeah, where each of them is gonna have.
Wait, no, we're not. No
You're
breakout
not?
rooms. No.
All right, cool. So,
Well, it depends if we have time.
all right. So yeah, that's opening remarks, guys. Just I don't know, get a notepad, something. Just learn. So, all right. I'll
Okay.
hand over to Shawn. Or
All right. Good afternoon again, guys. Thank you all for coming here with me because for today I'm on my phone. So sorry if I sound a bit low or if my background is loud, so if the mic is sensitive. All right, so I'm just going to do Shawn and I think Daryn is going to be doing demonstrations, and I'll just be explaining the general and basic terms so things don't seem as boring. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction to Git and GitHub because, yeah, we have other repositories, we'll get into that, but mainly GitHub. So, can switch the slide. All right. So, what is Git? Well, as it says, Git is a software for tracking changes in any set of files. So essentially, you literally use it to track files. It doesn't necessarily have to be a project. It could be literally any file. So it's usually used for files. It's usually used to, for coordinating work among programmers, and it really helps project management. It really helps to keep everything neat and tidy. And you'll see why when we reach branches. Like you'll understand why Git is so important. And Git itself is not a website; it's more of a language because you have multiple platforms that utilize Git, and that would be GitHub. GitHub would be one of them. So GitHub is essentially a company, and it's a provider for or of internet hosting for software development and version control. The version control is literally what it sounds like. You control like you have your first version, you have your second one, and version 0 point whatever. So it's literally used for it utilizes Git to help you manage your projects online. So if you go on Google and type in GitHub, you create a GitHub account, and Shawn and Daryn will show you by demonstrating utilizing Git and GitHub. So yeah, you can switch start. All right, so repo or repository. So essentially, we've all heard this before. So like a repo or repo is repository. It's a storage location for software packages. So let's say you have a account on GitHub, right? Which is a platform for managing projects, and that platform uses Git. And let's say you want to store a project, right? You want to keep track of a project and store it on Git or GitHub. You would have to create a repo or repository first and put said files in repo. So it often comes with a lot of things, a table of contents and branches. We'll get into that next. So that allows for source control, and usually it's only one person does the managing, as in the pull requests and push requests. I'll get into that as well. So right now, a repo is essentially storage. It's literally storage for that specific project on your GitHub account or any kind of Git-based platform. So yeah, it can go on branches. So now this is where branches are. Branches are basically the all right. When you're doing a project on your own, you don't normally care about branches because a branch represents an independent line of development. So if you're the only one working on a project, you only care about one, and that's the master branch. So I bet many people haven't noticed this, but if you go on GitHub and if you look at I think it's the top, well, not top, but like middle left, you'll see the word master. That's actually where you select branches and you can create branches. So a branch is literally used for separating everyone's work, put it simply. So you can think of them as a way to request a brand new working directory. So you get your own workspace to work on a project. So like, imagine this. Imagine you get hired at Digicel and they want you to fix some padding on a button, right? But you end up using some deprecated, which means outdated syntax, and it crashed the whole website. That would be a problem. You might even get fired. But this is where branches come in. So what you would do, you would create a new branch, which is a complete and separate workspace. Only you have access to that branch currently. And then once you create that new branch, you do whatever you're doing, you create the padding, you do the syntax for the button, you fix the button, and then you upload that branch. And then the PR, I think the person is called the PR, or it's the action itself is PR, the pull request. I don't remember, but there's one person who would go to your branch, pull it, and then check it. So they would know if whatever you did works or not before they actually merge it with the master branch. Because once you merge it with the master branch, I don't think there's a way. Well, there's a way to obviously go in the master branch and fix it, but I don't think there's a way to undo the merge. I don't think that's possible. So that's why branches are very, very, very important. It helps everyone to create the work without it helps to keep the work organized. So let's say even in the future, you want to roll back a version or two, then literally just click on the branch and select the branch, version 1, version 2, so on and so forth. So it really helps keep the work organized. So we can skip now. All right, so I think this is the last slide. It's just basic commands. So, you have git clone, which is cloning a repo, cloning a repository, which I just said. So as I said, someone has a file. Oh, I'm not sure if you guys hearing that. I'm sorry if you guys hearing that. But yeah, so you're essentially cloning or getting someone's repository or project. And git add, you're essentially adding. So let's say you created your own repo and it's empty. You do git add that to add all the files to that repository. There's a bit of a setup though, but the demo, you'll see the setup. You have git commit. So after you add the files, you have to commit them. So you do git commit. I think the actual command is git -m commit, and then you'd have to do a message. So if you were to go back to your GitHub, for example, whatever platform you're using, you'll be able to see that message. So let's say, again, you wanted to update the padding for a button. You did the git commit. For the message, you could say update or fix padding for button, whatever. And then once you push it, so this is where git push would come in, essentially uploading the files and updating the project or updating the repo. You would go in and you'll see the message. So the next time you go back on it, you know what you last did, so you're not confused. And then git checkout. Git checkout is essentially switching branches because I'm going to be honest, you have multiple methods for using Git. You can either use Visual Studio Code, which is what I use to keep things simple. So Visual Studio Code, you don't need to type in any Git commands. Git is an extension for VS Code, so you just press some buttons. You have a button for pushing, committing, creating branches, checking out branches, which is switching branches, merge, or no. After you created the branch, you name the branch, commit added files to the branch, committed to the branch, then push the branch. Once you go on GitHub, you'll be able, the person, the master who owns the repo will be able to merge everything. And one thing, if you only want one person to be able to merge via GitHub, merge the branch with the master branch, you need a pro account, and it's free for students, just like with a lot of things. So just in case if you guys wanted to mess with it with your friends or whatever and realize everyone can merge, that's why you need a pro account. So yeah, so where was I? All right. So Git branch, yeah. All right. Yeah, so Git branch and Git branch so on. Those essentially create branches. So if you do Git branch and instead of branch right, you could put whatever and you're essentially creating a branch. But as I said, I use VS Code, but knowing the Git language itself is also very important. You should know both. So I also need to familiarize myself with the actual commands and not rely on VS Code, because what if, in an interview, they want me to do some stuff with Git and they say I'm not allowed to use VS Code, which could happen. That's basically, it's an interview. That could happen. So I would recommend using VS Code to have an understanding of what's going on, because it is very, you can get fired very easily if you mess up a whole website or mobile app by pushing to the wrong branch, accidentally pushing to the master branch, or doing something really stupid. So I started out with VS Code and then I eventually transitioned to the commands. So that's basically all the basics for Git, and I'll move on to, well, we can move on to the demo now.
Guys, welcome again. You guys can hear me, right? Okay. All right, so now I'm going to show you guys how to actually install Git and create a repository. So let me share my whole screen. All right. All right, so to install Git, first we can just go to the website, or you can just search for it, Git download, and it will be this first link. And you can just click download for Windows or whichever operating system you're using. So download Git, and I already have it downloaded, so cancel that. Let's show you here, so you can open it. Okay. Then you click next. We'll show you all the options, and you don't really need to change any of these. You can just leave them as the defaults and click next, 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 next. Just keep clicking next. All of the options, don't need to change them. Next, 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 and then install. I won't click install because I already have it installed. But once you have it installed, you'll notice you get two new programs, Git Bash and Git GUI. So I'm going to open Git Bash. So Git Bash is just a CLI or command line interface. So that's just where you can type out different commands to do stuff on the system. So to check if Git was actually installed correctly, I'm going to do git -- version, and this should tell me the current version that's installed. And you can see Git version 2.34.1. So now that we confirm that it was installed properly, we can go to GitHub. So github.com. And you're going to have to create a GitHub account. It's extremely simple, so I won't really show you guys how to create an account. But once you have an account, you can go up here, click your repositories. Then you'll see a list of all the repositories you have. If you just created an account, this would be blank, but you can create a new one here. So new, I'll call this Intro to Git. And you can add a description. It's optional. You don't really have to put anything there. And here you select whether or not you want the repository to be public or private. So if you're working on something and you don't want anybody to see it and like steal your code, you'd make it private. But if you want others to see it, you're cool with that, you can leave it public. So I'll leave this one public and click create repository. Okay. All right, so now it's created and you can see the link to it. It's here, Shawn-grant/intro to GitHub. So we have it created in the cloud, right, on GitHub servers, but we need to actually get it on our computer so we can start coding. So to do that, we're going to copy this URL right here. So just copy that. Then, so I'm going to go to the folder where I want to put my project. So I'll use the desktop, and you'll get this option when you right click. You'll see a new option here, Git bash here. So you can click that. That will open a terminal in that location. So to get the project on your computer now, you can do git clone and then paste in the URL you just copied. Then click enter. It says you cloned an empty repository. That's fine. You can close this. Then now you'll see we have a folder here with the project intro to Git. And you also have a .git folder here. And this folder is important. You can't delete it or it won't work with GitHub. So this folder just tells it which repository the project is linked to, and it stores the changes that you've made so far. So I'm just going to open this entire folder in Visual Studio Code. All right, so I have a blank project. I'm going to create a file, say index.html. I'm going to add some boilerplate code. And let's add a title. My GitHub doc. So we have this created and can actually open the file in the browser. So there we have it. So now go back to Visual Studio. So now we need to upload this code that we have on our computer. We need to push that to GitHub. So the way we do that is you can go up here and click terminal, then new terminal. And this will open a new CLI where we can type our commands. So firstly, since we just added a new file, we need to do a git add and put the dot. The dot just means add everything. So click enter. All our files have been added. Now we want to do a git commit. So this basically just saves those changes. So git commit, and then you want to do -m. So -m gives it a message. You always want to put a message so that you can always know exactly what you did in that commit. So I'll say added HTML file and enter. You can see one file changed, 13 insertions because it's 13 lines of code. Then now we have our changes saved. we can do git push, enter, and it was successful. It will tell you all the data that was pushed. And if it's your first time doing a git push, it might ask you to sign in to GitHub. So, yeah. So now that we've pushed our code, we can go back to the website. All right, so go back to my repository, refresh the page. Now you can see index.html with the commit message added HTML file. So we can click it here. We can actually see what I just added. Yeah. And just like Hakeem was talking about, you have branches. So right here it says main. So it was master before, but they changed it to main because master sounded like slavery or something like that. So now it's a main branch. You can also create new branches here, or you can use the terminal to do it. But for this demonstration, we'll just use one branch or main branch. So let's go back to our project. Let's say I want to add some more stuff. Let's add a paragraph. Hello, are you? So now, since we've already added this file, we don't need to do a git add again. We can just go straight to the commit. So git commit -m message deleted HTML. Oh, okay. My bad. We actually do need to do a git add. So if there is an error, most of the time it will tell you exactly what you need to do. So git add dot, then we can do our commit. Edited HTML. Then we can do a git push. Okay. And it was successful. So back on the website, refresh. You see our new commit message, edited HTML, and you'll see the changes we just added right there. So Hakeem was saying you can also use the built-in Git integration in VS Code. So if I made a change here, you'd see the changes actually pop up over here under this source control tab. And instead of using the command line, you could just type your message here and then click this little check right here to commit. Then you can sync the changes, which will do a git push in the background. So sync changes, then it says this action will push and pull commits. Click OK. Okay, it was successful. So back to the site, reload, and you see the changes we just made. All right, so now we have a functioning GitHub repository and we uploaded our changes. So let's say I'm working on a group project and my group members need to add their parts, right? So that's where forking and pull requests come into play. And I'm going to hand over to Daryn, and he's going to show you guys how to contribute to this repository or anyone else's repository. So, Daryn?
Yes, I'm here. Okay. So, you guys see my screen?
Hello? Okay. So say I've came across Shawn's repository, I'm working with him, and I want to contribute, I want to add my own style to it. So I would here I'm already on his profile. So I would head over to his repositories, right? And I'll have to find the one I want to contribute to. So this is the one we're working with, Intro to Git. So I click that. So now I'm on his repository, Intro to Git, and I'm seeing the file, I'm seeing the code, I read the code and I say, you know what, this needs an image. So I can't directly edit this myself because this is his repository. What I'm going to do instead is create a copy on my profile and edit it there first. So in order to do that, I'm going to have to click fork. And I'm going to click my profile here in order to fork it to my profile. A fork is essentially a copy. So it's just a copy of the repository. Here it is doing the fork and we have it completed. So as you can see, it's on my profile, Daryn Brown Intro to Git. Okay, so now I have the repository on my profile. I need to get it onto my computer in order to actually edit it. So I'm going to go over to here where you see code, and I'm going to copy this link. This is the repository link. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to head to the folder where I want to store this locally. Hold on. So I have the folder open already. This is my desktop. I'm going to open Git Bash in this folder. So Git Bash here, and see it's in Daryn Brown desktop. So I'm going to clone this to my computer, same way Shawn did it earlier. Paste the link. So git clone repository, and here it is. It has, if I refresh this, I should see it here. So the repository is now on my computer, and we see the .git, we see the index.html file that Shawn added. So what I want to do is add an image that I have in this folder over here, right? So I'm going to copy this folder, go back into the repository folder and just paste it right here. Okay, so that's there. Now if we go back to Git Bash and we check for changes, I'm going to be using Git Bash. So I'm going to run git status. It will show us what has changed, what needs to be done, etc. So git status. Okay, so the reason why I got that error is because I did not enter the actual folder with the .git file. So after I've added it to my desktop, I need to enter the intro to Git folder from the terminal. So I'm going to have to run cd intro to Git. What cd means is change directory. So it's just entering into a folder, a subfolder. So run that, and now you see we're in desktop intro to Git. Now I can run git status where the .git folder is, and it shows us that there's a file that needs to be added, that needs to be staged, right? Staging is essentially putting the files in a position where it can be put online, basically. So I'm going to stage this file by typing git add dot, which means add everything. I'm going to run git status again to check what changed. So now you can see it's green. It says changes to be committed. So now I have to actually commit this to the online repository. So I'm going to run git commit. I'm going to add a message that says added assets folder with image. Run that, and then there we go. It should be on. It should be committed. But after the commit, it's not going to be presented on the repository as yet. We have to actually push it to the repository. So our final command will be git push. And now we can head back over to my copy of the repository, reload, and there you see my folder is there. It has my message added assets folder with image, and it has the image right here that I've just added. So what I'm going to do now is add this image into the actual website, the index.html file. So I'm going to open this folder in VS Code. So head over to the index file, index.html, and I'm going to just add the image. So, and I'm going to add, this is just a little HTML, so I'm going to add assets.git.jpg, get image. I'm going to save this. And if I preview this here, it should pop up in the website. Let me give this a size. So I'll say width equal 100. Okay, you can keep that as is. So now you see I've added the image, but this is not online as yet. This is just on my computer. So I'm going to want to actually put this to the repository as well, this new change. So I'm going to head back over to git bash, run git status. There you can see I modified the HTML file by adding that link. So I'm going to do the same thing again, git add, run git status again. You see that it's added. Now I can just commit, add a message, say added image to website. And then we're going to finally push it. So git push, push. Okay, so if we head back over to my repository, we can see added image to website. And if we check the actual HTML here, you can see that image link I added. Okay, so now that I've made my changes to Shawn's repository, I actually need Shawn to accept my changes because all of this is on my profile. The original project that Shawn made is still the same as it was before. So I actually have to ask Shawn to add my changes to his profile. So I'm going to make a pull request, right? I'm going to head over here, make a new pull request, click create pull request, and I'm going to add a message to Shawn, say, please add my stylish changes. And I'm going to, yeah, you can leave that empty. That's just a comment. I'm going to give this a title. In fact, I'm going to say what I added image. And then I'm going to leave the comment here. So please add my changes. I'm going to create this pull request now. So if we check, it's confirmed, my pull request is confirmed, but now Shawn will have to see my pull request and accept it. Once he does that, the changes will appear on his side of the project. So let's go back to Shawn and he will show you how to do that.
All right, let me reshare. All right, so Daryn just sent me a pull request. So first of all, if you look on the repository, you'll see it's exactly how we left it. It's only my changes. There's no assets folder, right? If we look right here At the top, you'll see a pull request tab. It says 1 because Daryn just submitted one. So click that. Here we can see the request Daryn just submitted, added image. Let's click that. All right. It says, please add my changes. And we could merge his changes with my branch, but we don't want to do that yet. We need to actually check to make sure that the code he added makes sense, right? Because we don't want it to break our project. So we go over here under commits. We can see the different commits that he made. So let's look at added image to website. Here we can see exactly what lines he changed, right? So here we have green means he added, red means he removed something. So we can see he added an image tag right there. All right, so looking at it, it looks fine. Sorry if hearing any background noise. So he added this and it looks fine. I'm happy with it. So I'll go back here on the conversation. Now click merge pull request. Okay, and then confirm merge. Okay, and there we go. It was merged. So you see this tag right here that says merged. If I go back to the code, look at that, you'll see we now have an assets folder and it has Daryn's comment on it. And if you look to the side here, you'll also see that under contributors, Daryn is now a contributor. All right, so open the file and you'll see his image added here. Okay, so now that we have that done, we still need to update the changes on my side, on my local computer. So I'll go back to VS Code and I'll run a git pull. So git pull basically takes the changes from the remote repository on GitHub and it pulls those changes down into your local repository. So git pull, but you can see just like that, his new line is now in our local project. And you can see it says it here, all the files that were changed. If we go here, you can see we now have an assets folder with that image inside of it. And if we go to the actual page, refresh it, you can see the image is now here. So that is how you contribute to our repository on GitHub. And yeah, so now that we have everything set up, we just repeat that process over and over until our project is completed. So that's it for the presentation. Do you guys have any questions you'd like to ask? You can type in the chat or unmute.
I have a question. For the first time you have to log, you might be asked to log into GitHub. I was watching like a tutorial. I didn't really get to that step before, but there's something about the SSH key that you have to like generate and something.
Okay, so there's two ways you can on our project. One is with the HTTPS link. That's the method we used, but you could also use an SSH key. You don't need to use it. Most people just use the HTTPS link and do a git clone. So yeah, you don't really need to worry about that.
Okay. All right, thanks.
Any more questions?
Guess we have no questions. All right, well, thank you guys for coming. Hope it was informative and you guys learned something. So, Joel or Jamie, if you have anything to say.
Yeah. I just want to say thanks for the presentation. Like I learned a good amount. Thanks to you, Daryn and Hakeem. Hakeem had to go, but thank you guys for the presentation. I learned a lot. I hope everybody else learned too. And I don't know, was anybody following along? Can anybody type in chat? No.
Probably it would have been too fast for them to follow along. Just want to tell you guys that we have an upcoming event on Monday and Tuesday. It's TensorFlow machine learning. Well, TensorFlow is a tool, but it's really machine learning. So ensure that come out and see the good stuff. That's all I have to say, Shawn.
Okay. If any of you guys are interested in contributing to the repository I just made, I just posted the link in the chat. You can try it out for yourselves. So, yeah.
One more question, Shawn. When you have your repository public, is there any like code protection or like license usage protection?
Not really. So when you have your code public, anybody can see it, anybody can clone it. But you can add licenses, but most of the licenses are for open source, so you still wouldn't like have full control over that. But if you're working on something and you really don't want anybody to see it, you would have to make the repository private.
Okay. So you can still collaborate with the private repository, right?
Right. So if your repository is private and you want other people to work on it, you will have to add them individually to the project so they can see it.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you all for coming. Really appreciate it. If there are no more questions, you are all free to go.